Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Profit Talk. As you might imagine, we call it Weekly Profit Talk because we do this every single week, Wednesday morning at 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time. That is 7:30 if you're on the West Coast, 10:30 if you're on the East Coast. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome, and happy first week of summer, by the way. Hopefully, you're all staying cool. Um, this week's topic, let's launch right in. It is you are trained to heal, not to forecast. What we want to talk about this week is basically um, how you have spent 10 years in total between all the education and residency that you had to do becoming a doctor. And there isn't any part of that where you actually learned how to run a business. But if now that you're running your own practice, um, there's a little bit of a knowledge gap there. And let's talk about that and see what we can do to help you this week. So we'll just launch into that for a few minutes here. And that is the topic of our discussion for today. So, you logged thousands of hours learning to keep people healthy, right? But you logged exactly zero learning how to keep a business healthy. This isn't your zone of genius or area of expertise. So, um, let's talk about where the gap quietly bills you here. Capital decisions. This is if you basically want to buy major assets. Let's say you're a chiropractor, for example. I'm guessing, and you could be any specialty, but you might need some sort of expensive diagnostic equipment, or decide that you want to have this in your office as opposed to sending out for the results. And the timing of these kind of acquisitions is very important, as well as the tax implications behind them. Um, let's say that you finance a build out or that imaging equipment, or even a second location based on banker's enthusiasm and your gut feeling. But nobody has really modeled what that financing actually will do to your tax or your cash position 6, 12, or even 18 months from now. Staffing decisions. If you have no idea where the margins are, it's not going to be very difficult to say if that hire is going to make you any wealthier. You add a provider because the waiting room is full, which feels like the right signal to follow, but you can't, again, really say if that's going to actually make you wealthier or simply busier. So, tax decisions. This is big. The bill arrives in the spring just like the weather. It's something that happens to you rather than something that you uh, have any control over. And by the time you see the number, every lever that might have changed it has already been pulled and is completely out of reach. So that is where the gap lies. Um, a post-mortem is not a plan. The annual tax return isn't really a checkup, or it's basically a post-mortem. It's the year in review. It's a history lesson. It tells you in detail what happened to a year that you can no longer do anything about. It is accurate, it is thorough, and it's completely past tense. A practice run entirely on past tense information is flying with its instruments pointed directly out the back window. You didn't train for a decade to make six-figure decisions based on hunches in a rearview mirror. You trained to read the vitals while they could still change the outcome. So the question is, what would it look like to have someone reading those vitals all year long instead of writing the autopsy every following April? Basically, knowing what your scoreboard is month by month, and not only knowing what has transpired the prior months, but actually being able to do something um, based on projection and future forecasting, scenario-based modeling, as it were. It is possible. It's not a rhetorical flourish, it's a real and answerable question. If you know the gap, you were trained to heal, you were never trained to forecast, and the fact is that a thriving practice needs both. Okay, so what we're saying here is you can make decisions that are scenario based. You should be able to forecast your cash up to 13 weeks out, or basically a that's 13 weeks. It's a 3 month projection, okay? 90 days. Not only that, but you can make decisions from profit and loss projection 6 months, even 1 year or further out. Uh, so making decisions based on actual data-driven facts and not hunches is going to be the difference between a practice that's surviving and a practice that's actually thriving. So, are you ready to stop reading your autopsy and start reading the vitals? And that's the question we have for you this week. So, um, let's talk about that just a little bit. If you are in fact interested in learning more about how day-to-day guidance and knowing exactly what your scoreboard is so you can call the plays based on actual data, um, then we'd like to be able to have an opportunity to talk to you about what that would look like in your practice. If you're interested in having a conversation for 30 or 45 minutes with me directly, um, we call that process discovery, and it's basically exactly what it means. You discover a little bit more about how we work. We discover a little bit more about your unique and particular scenario and situation, and see if it resonates and works, as it were, to work with each other. Because the plain fact of the matter is, if you are basing your information on history and past data, then you're really going to have a difficult time with forward-thinking momentum. So we are coming to you live, or you may be watching this in replay on 103 Media, Facebook, as well as LinkedIn and even YouTube. And those all three have a comments capability in common. So if you write help, more info, or book a call, or whatever you like in the comment section of wherever you're seeing this, we will reach out to you within 24 business hours. So if you happen to see this on a Friday night, we may uh, ask you to bear with us until the following Monday morning, but we will reach out and let you know exactly how you can book a call with me and we can talk for a little bit and see if it makes sense to work together. So, uh, this decision could mean more profit, better cash flow, and less tax. And that last one's a biggie. We don't like what the government does with your money. And you're probably not real crazy if you live in one of the 41 states that has an income tax, and that's most of them. You're probably not real crazy about the way they spend the money either. I'm certainly not a big fan of the IRS. And if you are, then let's discuss that. I'm looking forward to talking to you no matter what. So reach out and let's have a conversation soon. So um, until then, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day today and the rest of the following week. I hope you have some uh, plans to take a little bit of time off and enjoy the warmer weather this summer. And if you have a chance today, do something randomly kind for a stranger. So until next week, we will see you later. And